97% of men, women, and children in both North America and the EU, first world countries, have some form of active oral disease. Okay, wow. 97 out of every 100. That idea of conventional dentistry doesn't believe it's possible to accomplish what Susan did. Now, we have customers all over the world who have done feats much greater than what Susan did, actually.
Will Revak, co-founder of OraWellness.
The problem with this is as the jawbone recedes, as we lose jaw tissue.
Maybe there is a way to reverse it.
Well, maybe.
OraWellness has now served over 1 million customers in 125 countries.
If we think of the tooth, the part of the tooth that is normally coming out of the gum line has enamel around it. Okay? Mm-hmm. But the tooth doesn't stop at the gum line. Obviously, there's a root to the tooth. We all have lost teeth as children, obviously. So the root to the tooth is not covered by enamel. It's just covered by what's called dentin, which is a not as hard material. All right. So when the gum tissue recedes, now that dentin of the root of the tooth is exposed. And once that root is exposed, now our sensitivity will really increase.
Which is really important because all the people are just focusing on relaxing. And I always say, okay, if you're always just relaxed.
This is okay. We're not supposed to kill the bugs in our mouth. Our job is actually. There is a relationship between grinding and clenching and sensitivity that I'd like to unpack here together. So the number one thing that we need to grasp is that, and that touched something, it awakened something in my heart. And I wait a second. You mean that what we're doing is
got me feeling so good, always knew that I could. Got me feeling so good, so yeah. Got me feeling so good, always knew that I would. Got me feeling so good.
Before we dive into today's conversation, just a quick note. So today's episode and today's guest is a real treat, and we hope you'll enjoy it as much as we enjoyed making it. But remember, you can't cut out salt completely, meaning take everything with a pinch of salt. If it doesn't agree with your logic and your intuition, don't take it. And remember, we want to give a platform to a wide range of voices, but that doesn't mean we necessarily agree with everything and that everything that's shared is fact, right? So, pinch of salt. It's really important to say. And also remember that this is not medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, none of that. It's just a couple of people having conversations about topics that we feel are very important and we hope that you'll enjoy. With that being said, enjoy the show. So this kind of reminds me of being in school, reading out in front of the whole class. There's just us two here, but there's potentially a lot of people watching. So This reminds me of a kid who didn't know he had inattentive ADHD and really struggled to read. And then later in life, still struggling with that, but being more okay with it. So anyway, without further ado, today we are honored to be joined by Will Revak, co-founder of OraWellness, together with his wife, Susan. In 2009, they launched the company after a very personal journey into holistic oral healthcare. They didn't begin as business moguls. They began as two people who discovered something that genuinely helped and felt called to share with others so they could also experience that same transformation. Their mission from day one has been to empower people, creating a healthy relationship to their oral health using natural, whole-body approaches and starting upstream, as they like to say. And over the years, this mission has grown into what we could call a global movement. A few wild facts: OraWellness has now served over 1 million customers in 125 countries. It's pretty wild. And if you're listening to this a couple of years down the line, who knows, maybe it's every single country in the world, and there's only 70 to go. Will, Susan, and the whole team emphasize education at the heart of everything that they do. They share resources on holistic dentistry, the oral microbiome, oral hygiene techniques, and deeper connection between oral health and overall well-being. Their mission extends way beyond personal health. They're also committed to creating a better world through the work that they do and the sustainable business practices that they engage in. So it's our pleasure to welcome Will to the Jaw Yoga podcast and into our beautiful virtual studio. Welcome, Will. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Felix. Thank you, Julia, for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I just want to start and say that we so commonly we're on the flip side commonly, and we're interviewing people. And I'm actually moved to tears hearing your introduction. Like, wow, that's what we've done. So, thank you. I'm very grateful.
Well deserved. It was not hard to write that. Yeah, so maybe we'll start right at the beginning, your personal journey, and maybe you'd like to share how you first got into the field, how you learn everything that you know now, because you hold a lot of knowledge. And I studied your stuff a little bit. I listened to some other podcasts. And what was really striking to me is you have this ability to take really complex stuff that people go to dental school for, right? And you just break it down into simple terms, reading papers and all of it. So where did you learn how to do that? And maybe you'd like to say.
You are so you're so articulate, Felix. I'm so touched and honored to be here with you both, because your awareness and the mindfulness that you bring into your, just that question, I'm just in awe. You're spot on with that. So where did we get our start? Three things really come to mind. Susan and I met in a Kung Fu school as teenagers. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily realize that, but we were studying the Chinese internal arts. Most people understand the idea of Tai Chi. Tai Chi is one of the arts that we studied. We were young people, so you're not really into Tai Chi when you're a teenager. So there are other arts that you can study that are more physical and more martial. And that's what we essentially raised ourselves in. So Susan was 20, I was 17 when we met. And we, for the next 10 years, devoted ourselves to that study of Chinese longevity arts. And in that time, we helped our teacher grow what is normally a very small esoteric school tucked away in some back alley into a very large presence in Southern California. And that's really where I learned to take ideas and cultivate them and articulate them and explain them to people. Like, it's kind of complex to how to describe qi circulation flowing down the, various different meridians of the body, for example, or, the sophisticated qualities of different types of breathing patterns. And so I developed in that school as a young man the ability to grasp ideas and explain them. So that's one of my skills, I guess, one of my superpowers that I've cultivated. Another part that really jumps out for me is what got us started with Susan's story. This goes back many years, but in the early 1990s, we left Southern California, moved to a new area. She went to a dentist. She'd been going to dentists her whole life. Went to a new dentist, and the new dentist did what's called, now we know, is called a periodontal test. So anybody listening, you've been to a dentist and they poke around in your gums and they're calling numbers out to their assistant. They're going 2, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. They're testing the depth of gum pockets around each of your teeth. And this is a very important measurement we learned that day, and for many years since then, obviously, where Susan was diagnosed with advanced gum disease, or what's called periodontal disease in English. And the dentist, it got really somber in the room, and the dentist said, okay, and left the room for a minute and got a brochure that had some horrendous pictures on it, and said, oh, you need dental surgery. And Susan, having raised herself in a kind of a counterculture world of the Chinese longevity arts, didn't take this dentist's advice and went home and researched and started applying at-home strategies to address her gum disease. And over the course of a year, reversed it and went back to the same dentist a year later. And the dentist scratched her head. It was a woman dentist. She scratched her head and she said, I must have mismeasured last year. I misdiagnosed you. And Susan said, no, you didn't. Let me tell you what I did. And the dentist said, actually, I have another patient that I have to get to. I have to go. And the dentist never came back to hear Susan's story. And that put a fire in Susan. It was upsetting. It angered her. And so that's really the formative story for why we're here. Now, a lot of work in between, several years later, we didn't start OraWellness until 2009, but, we essentially put out a prayer saying, all right, where's our home-based business that does no harm, that really helps people and contributes to the betterment of lives of other people, that we can work from home? And that was probably 2007. And then in 2008, we're like, maybe we should talk to people about what you did in your mouth. And that started the process. And because we're not shackled, we're not chained to the dental chair, since neither of us are dentists, we can research. And then I apply my, we'll call it a superpower, but we all have superpowers. I apply my skill of being able to explain subjects to people, and we make educational resources. So that's really how we came into it, how we learned. I have a passion for learning. I'm a life learner, self-ascribed life learner, and we love to help people. So that's kind of fits all together there, really.
Wow, that's really powerful and really beautiful. In many ways, it takes a lot of courage and boldness as well. I mean, research papers are not the most fun things to read, so commending you for your bravery there. But what is OraWellness today? So from when you started, what do you do? How do you help people?
Right.
What is it today?
We call ourselves a global product and information solutions company. Okay, we help our community navigate the path to optimal oral health. Now, here's the thing. That's our gateway, if you will. That's our entry to the conversation, because the three of us know very well, and we'll talk, I'm sure, about this down the road in this interview, but our oral health is directly connected to the health of our whole body, and I would say our whole being, for that matter. Not just our body, but our consciousness that inhabits this body too. So really what we're doing is we are dispelling cultural myths of what's possible when it comes to things like stopping cavities, gum disease, and empowering individuals to create massive positive change in their own mouths, like Susan did. And honestly, Susan, we call it a dental miracle, which it's not. I mean, I guess it is, but miracles happen all the time in my reality. They're happening constantly, everywhere. We call it a dental miracle because most dentists in the field that we've spoken to, the broad idea of conventional dentistry doesn't believe it's possible to accomplish what Susan did. Now, we have customers all over the world who have done feats much greater than what Susan did, actually. And it's all through empowering oneself with knowledge and then applying that knowledge. I don't know who said it, but in English, at least, we have the quote of knowledge is power. I'm sure it goes way back. It's probably a Latin saying originally. Do either of you know what the source? I don't know what the source of that is.
Me neither. But I know it. Yeah, I know it. I've heard it. Yeah.
It might be Aristotle. I'm not sure. Anyway, we adapt that and we say that knowledge is just knowledge. Knowledge applied is power. So the first step is really gathering the knowledge. And then the second step is taking action on that knowledge. And by doing that, we can affect massive change.
Mm. And how, out of curiosity, how did Susan figure out what to do to create this quote unquote miracle? Because that was before the days of ChatGPT and YouTube being big.
All right. She did a lot of research, and she found this kind of a fringe, do-it-yourself, take care of gum disease at home information. And when she read it, it resonated with her. And she realized that essentially what we teach now, she realized that she is the most important person, what we call the MVP, the most valuable person, or the captain of her oral health journey. The dentist can't do it for her. She has to do it. And so she went about learning strategies and applying, again, knowledge, and then applying those strategies. And the results are that we now have customers all over the world.
Mm.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. I see so many things in parallels in your work and also in ours. Mm-hmm. As you are working with this inner wisdom, everybody has, right? So mm-hmm. you can have some advice from dentists, advice from therapists, but you need to feel it, and the body knows. The body knows, but you need to get access to this inner wisdom again. So this is so beautiful how you're explaining this and what you do for people. Because also from my experience, it's like when people don't know what to do, they feel so helpless, and then everything gets worse. Because you have this stress in your body all the time, you get this inflammation, you get these tensions in your body, in your mind. So by having the knowledge and then connect it to your inner wisdom, that's like so beautiful.
Yeah, excellent. Wow. Super well said.
From your experience, I would have a question. What are the common root causes for teeth grinding, jaw clenching, for sensitivities or other oral health issues?
Yeah. This is a great question. If we are going to unpack clenching, grinding, I mean, I know that that's your core, and that's awesome. There is a relationship between grinding and clenching and sensitivity that I'd like to unpack here together. First of all, the context matters. Now, are we talking about daytime when we're conscious in our bodies, or nighttime grinding? And I'm going to focus on the nighttime grinding side, because I think that there's a really important aspect to bring to light here in the context of our conversation here. I think that daytime grinding is a stress factor. I'll just say that. And I think that you guys do an excellent job in addressing that world. And that's what you do is so crucial for the world. And again, it's very similar to what we do. And that's why we're here talking, and why we've maintained a friendship through the years, because it's a cultural blind spot. We just think it's normal, but it's not. Yeah. Just because something is common, and I took some notes and I wrote this down earlier, just because something is common doesn't mean it's normal or healthy. So if we talk about grinding, clenching, and the relationship to sensitivity and solutions for it, what I want to bring forward is the idea of night grinding. Now, the problem is that most of us aren't aware of this. But I believe that there is a huge issue of undiagnosed, what is called in English, moderate obstructive sleep apnea. Okay, I don't know if you guys get into that heavily or not.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, good. There's a direct connection here. If a person has what's called in English apneic events, if they're having sleep apnea, then physiologically, one of the ways they're dying, they're suffocating, and one of the ways that the body, when the body is very asleep, will remedy this is by clenching the jaw and gnashing the teeth and creating a bunch of tension in the jaw and throat to be able to open the airway again so that the person can breathe. And it makes sense that we're designed that way, that we're built this way, because otherwise we'd be dead. We'd have choked to death or fallen asleep at night, or, fallen asleep and not waking up because of suffocating. But the problem with this is that by stressing our teeth in this way, it creates gum recession. And when we create gum recession, now we are increasing our risk of sensitivity of our teeth a lot. Because if we get it's funny, I don't have a tooth anatomy around to show. If we think of the tooth, the part of the tooth that is normally coming out of the gum line has enamel around it. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the tooth doesn't stop at the gum line. Obviously, there's a root to the tooth. We all have lost teeth as children, obviously. So the root to the tooth is not covered by enamel. It's just covered by what's called dentin, which is a not as hard material. All right. So when the gum tissue recedes, now that dentin of the root of the tooth is exposed. And once that root is exposed, now our sensitivity will really increase.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a direct connection there between sleep apnea and grinding the teeth at night to open the airway as a desperate attempt to stay alive, and gum recession that then leads to sensitivity. Now, what can we do about it? That's, a huge subject that I think we'll get into throughout the rest of our conversation here. But I wanted to put on the table this idea that if, anybody listening to this, if you snore, or if your partner snores, if your partner tells you, oh my gosh, I couldn't sleep last night because you were snoring, or I will wake myself up sometimes and I'm snoring. That's a sign that you're having airway issues.
Yeah.
And this is an increasing problem as our culture gets further and further away from indigenous foods, I believe. I think that Weston Price, back 100 years ago now, very, very clearly helped us to understand that by getting away from really chewing on things hard and maintaining strong chewing capabilities, that combined with honestly not, like modern conveniences of putting a baby on a bottle rather than on the mother's breast, is a problem to what we would call a collapsed dental arch. So as the dental arch, if you look inside my mouth this way at the top line of teeth, that arch should be really broad and wide. And as the generations go, primarily through bottle feeding and through too much soft foods, that dental arch becomes narrower and narrower. And as it narrows, the whole airway passage shrinks. And I know that you guys are all over this. This is hugely important. And as that shrinks, then that becomes more and more difficult to maintain an open airway at night.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, how you explain it. So from our experience, of course, the breathing is one of the root causes of snoring. And yeah, of course, this collapsed dental arch. It also has a lot to do, what we know from research, with the tongue position, right?
Absolutely.
When the children are bottle fed, they can't bring the tongue up, or they relearn to bring the tongue to the front instead of up to the palate, and then there is no stimulation of the gum, of the palate, right? Also no stimulation of the vagus nerve, so it's like a circle we are going. And also what you said, it's so important with the sleep apnea, because this is also what I heard from many experts very often, and also what I can really see with our people, that they either snore by themselves, or they lie next to somebody who is snoring, which is also creating stress, and then start to clench. And often the tongue, right? So the tongue, when the tongue is not in the right resting position, it falls back into the throat and it collapses the airways. Therefore, people need to breathe more, and then they have this huge inhale, but this throat walls come together even more. So this is like, you can't stop it without working, right? You, like you say, on the breathing and on the tongue. So
That's perfect, Julia. I'd forgotten that was really our common ground way back then. So let me back up and share that because our background is in the Chinese longevity arts, that is where Susan and I learned, the Chinese longevity arts are all about postural secrets, essentially. And one of the postural secrets is to upthrust the tongue to the roof of the mouth. Right now, we kind of misunderstood that back then. And I think that there's a lot of misinformation on the internet around that idea, in that they talk about just putting the tip to the roof. And we all understand the importance of actually layering the tongue, in particular the back of the tongue, into the soft palate of the upper arch, for sure.
That's amazing. What are those ancient wisdom telling about the importance of bringing the tongue up? This would be very interesting also for our people. Hi there, this is Julia from Kieferfreund and Joy Yoga. Thank you so much for listening today. We are a company based in Austria and the UK, helping people all around the world release jaw tension, reduce stress, and reclaim their well-being. We also support health and movement professionals with our online certifications, so more people can then access the help they truly need. We created this podcast because knowledge is power. To take your jaw health back into your own hands, you first need to understand. And that's why we're bringing you cutting-edge insights from leading experts in this field. If you're ready to take the next step, join our Kieferfreund Kickstart program. You can start for free today, and you'll find the link in the description. And remember, you're not alone. Join our caring community of people who improve their jaw health holistically and together. We are here to support you every step of the way. And now, let's get back to this episode.
It comes out of it's called the 3 upthrusts. And if I recall it correctly, this is going back a lot of years, but it's upthrust the tongue to the roof of the mouth, upthrust the head, right? So you think the way that we describe this in the Chinese longevity arts when teaching classes, or even just posture, healthy posture, is think of yourself like a puppet from a string hanging from the top of your head. So lift and lift. And by having that sensation, you guys are very aware people. If we, let's play a game for a second. If anybody's watching, let's try this. Let's pretend like we've been on a computer for a long time. So we're head forward, and we're just kind of like, whoa, okay. And of course, we're going to get tired like this, right? So just feel the body for a moment. And now feel the string at the top of your head, and not forcefully, but lift yourself from that string. Feel the string pulling you very gently. And as you do so, now put the tongue to the roof of the mouth. And what I get is tingling up the back of my neck. Well, what is that tingling? That is what the Chinese tradition, or I would say actually originally Indian tradition, that the Chinese were like, hey, that's a good idea. We're going to take that and go work with it. The concept of prana or chi.
Yeah.
Okay, this is circulation that we're feeling by restoring healthy postural alignment. Okay, so very, very simple. I should say very fundamental. By lifting ourselves like a puppet from a string from the crown of the head and putting the tongue to the roof of the mouth, we are connecting energy channels in the body that literally are the difference between health and a loss of health.
Yeah, that's awesome, right? So with these small things you say, we can increase our life force,
Yes,
life energy.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. It's
Wow.
beautiful. Got to remember the string at all times.
Mm.
One thing that came through while listening to both of you really was, so we could have the knowledge is just knowledge, right? So we can understand, okay, this is what's going on with my airway, with my arch, etc. But then how do we apply the knowledge? Some people might be terrified hearing, okay, I've got a near-death experience every night when I go to sleep. What can I do? Is there anything I can do, or do I have to just accept that because we only ate soft food, I'm now basically screwed and I'm going to have apnea? And like, what can we do?
Right. Right. Good question. There's a lot of modalities out there. I believe that what you guys are doing is crucially important from the standpoint of the principle of what we call use it or lose it. Right. I love that you guys have coined this jaw yoga term. Okay, it's because that's really what we're talking about, right? If we don't maintain our range of motion, if we don't maintain our ability to create tension in the jaw, then how can we really have relaxation? We all have the experience of the endorphin release, the good feeling after a good workout. How is that any different than, why do we not do that here? Right. So if we maintain our functional capability of our musculature in our face, neck, and throat, we will maintain greater muscular capability and therefore greater postural structure. Part of it is, like you guys do and like we do as well, is a lot of retraining, right? When any of the three of us on here, and I challenge anyone watching this to look and see if it's any different. But one of us is talking and my mouth is open and my tongue is not to the roof of my mouth, but the other two people's mouths are closed and their tongue are the roof of the mouth. And I know they are because I know you both from our work together. And the same thing for me. When I close my mouth, I put my tongue to the roof of my mouth because it's what we call its home position. That's the position that God designed our tongues to be sitting. That's the way we view it.
Love it. And also to your question, Felix, I really love the chewing hard food, right? The natural things, because also it releases the stress in the fascia, right? So when we chew, it's not just this workout we have, which is really important because all the people are just focusing on relaxing. And I always say, okay, if you're always just relaxed, then we are all... Right. We can't make any decisions. We can't live our lives. But this chewing, I loved it. To chew and to release stress through eating and enjoy your food.
Exactly. And let it be real food. Let it not just be like smoothies and soft things. Like if you have children, I understand the idea of giving a young child very soft foods from the standpoint of reducing choking hazard, but also let them bite down on things. They have to experience their world. I learned something and it comes to mind, Julia, as with what you just said. I interviewed Mike Mew many years ago.
Yeah.
And I really think that it was his conversation and our conversation together that helped me to put something together. And the way that he puts it, I think, is a really good one. I'm just going to borrow from him for a moment. And this is where I learned this idea that all of the musculature in our body is structured in a way that we have push and pull muscles, right? So we have like a simple example of the arm. If I'm going to bend the arm, I'm using my bicep. And so then I have the tricep to extend the arm, right? Well, where is that for our chewing musculature? And it was Mike that postulated the idea that the the counterbalance to chewing is actually the tongue to the roof of the mouth, which allows this to relax, because that is I'm sure you can explain it better than I can, but that is the counterbalance to jaw tension is, oh, you want to release the jaw, put the tongue to the roof of the mouth. You can't tense your jaw with your tongue to the roof of the mouth.
Yeah, yeah. I love that from Mark Mew as well, yeah. So there are also scientific researches from Dr. Engelke from Germany. He's talking about this closed system, closed oral cavity, and through this you make this closure with your lips and also with your tongue to the back, and then you have this vacuum inside your mouth, and therefore your jaw muscles can relax or find the balance when the tongue is up. But therefore the tongue has to be up, so your airways are stable, your jaw is stable in its right position. Either you do a handstand or you just lie on your belly, whatever. So for me, it's always like that. If there is something true, it's common. So many people are talking about it in maybe a little bit of different way, but it's the truth. So it has to be like that. So explain it like this or that in this way or another, but it is the truth. Yeah, I love it.
Well said. Well said.
I have another question. If you would like to tell me your secret, if you could travel back in time, what would be the 3 keys or the key secrets you wish to know earlier?
A few things come to mind. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but one secret is oral health related, one business and one personal. How about that?
Nice.
So one oral health related. I would like to have had greater clarity between the ideas of common and normal. In other words, just because something is common doesn't mean that it's normal. This directly relates to oral health through this, what we call our sad statistic. Depending on who you ask, 97% of men, women, and children in both North America and the EU, first world countries, have some form of active oral disease. Okay, wow. 97 out of every 100 men, women, children have, and most of that 97% is tooth decay and gum disease. Okay, tooth decay is a disease, so that's an active disease. So if what we were doing as a culture were working, don't you think that number would be much, much lower?
Yeah.
Right. So this idea of teasing apart and looking at commonality and normalcy. Just because something is common doesn't mean it's normal or healthy. So that's one. Another bit of wisdom that I wished I had learned earlier was the skill of focusing on what I'm really best at and learning to delegate tasks that don't leverage my superpowers to others who are awesome at those tasks. I have a tendency to want to just get things done, and there's a very much of a limit to what we can get done by ourselves. But if we can cultivate leadership skills and be able to recognize what our skills are and what our skills are not, what we don't have, like I'm not a design person. And again, this weekend, I spent some time working on something. I said, I know this is not what I should be doing with my time, but I need to get this done. So I'm just going to get it done. So it's definitely a bit of wisdom that I'm seeking to continue to apply. And then the personal one I'll share. I am 57 years old at this point, and I've learned through my own trials and tribulations and challenges that we have to be authentic to ourselves and to others. Experts estimate that we lie either to ourselves or others approximately 1.5 times a day. if we're not very, very, very rigorous and honest with ourselves, what I would call radically honest. So if we are going to be normal or common, shall I say, and be like the average amount of people, the average that experts, there's an expert here in the United States, Anna Lemke, who has really done a lot of work on this. I think she's a PhD out of Stanford, on lying and authenticity. And the problem is, if we are not going to be radically honest with ourselves, then we are caving, we're giving in, and we're not being authentically us. And when we do that, that's kind of like letting myself sit like this all day, where I just can't be healthy.
Yeah, that's powerful. Wow.
Yeah, Will, we'd love to just look at things from a practical angle as well. So we touched on clenching and grinding. Obviously, people are very welcome to check out our program for that. And then tooth sensitivity, we didn't speak about it that much yet, but obviously it's something that you guys help with. So at this point in history, as far as I'm aware, gum recession cannot be that well reversed, if at all. So what can people do to reduce sensitivity with your products? Or I see you kind of waving your head. Maybe there is a way to reverse it.
Well, we have to be careful as a company to not overpromise and underdeliver. Right. We do have people in our community writing us back saying that gum recession, gum tissue is recovering. Anatomically, I don't really understand that, because I've done the work in researching and understanding the anatomy of the mouth. And the problem with gum recession is, so this totally ties in with your guys' work. The alveolar bone, the jaw bones, cycle through the bone tissue at some of the fastest rate in the body of all the bones. All the bones are always turning over, right? I mean, our bodies are constantly refreshing themselves. The jaw bones happen to be the area that this happens the fastest. This is why creating tension and relaxation are critical to maintain jawbone density. If we don't maintain jawbone density, then the bones will start to, the body is intelligent and very efficient, and the body will start to move those minerals away and use them elsewhere. So the problem with this is, as the jawbone recedes, as we lose jaw tissue, then the gum is only attached to the tooth by a connection to the tooth, the gum tissue. There's no bone underneath that gum tissue. The gum is just skin over top of our jawbone, right? So as the jawbone drifts a little bit, the skin tissue stays present on the tooth until it doesn't. Because we brush too hard, or because we're grinding our teeth because of moderate sleep apnea or whatever it is. Once that gum tissue recedes, there's no bone to maintain it to stay there. Okay, so it really depends on the type of gum recession a person is dealing with. If it's widespread gum recession, I would have a tendency to think that is probably widespread bone loss, and there's a relationship between bone loss and gum disease, which is what we consider to be, in English, we call it the elephant in the living room. This is a very, very big problem that most of us aren't aware of, because the dental model is mostly about tooth decay, right? The dental business model is focused on what is kind of negatively called drill, fill, and bill dentistry. Okay, that's really what the dental business model is, though, right? It's only been in the past maybe 30 years that dental hygienists have come on board and like, oh, we need to take care of your gum health now, right? So if we're dealing with widespread recession, that's not the end of the world. We can protect the roots of our teeth. Now, I actually just interviewed somebody last week who is a world expert on fluoride and the risks of fluoride systemically and stuff like that. This is another cultural myth we unpack. We've been taught for generations that the answer to tooth decay is to apply fluoride to our teeth. I'm sure it's there in the EU, just like it is here in the US and all around the world. The problem is we have this sad statistic that says that 97% of us still have active oral disease. So again, if fluoride were really working, would that number be what it is? Right. So that's part of the issue. The good news is that there's another compound that is very effective at addressing sensitivity and not just numbing the pain. Like a lot of sensitive toothpastes have numbing agents in them. Like, oh, let's just make you not feel the pain. That'll make it all better. No, that's not the answer, right? We can address the sensitivity by actually by two things that come to mind. Number one is by a nutrient-dense diet. That's critically important. And then also by using products that contain hydroxyapatite is the term. That's a very fancy term, but it's a molecule that our teeth are made of. Hydroxyapatite is what mammalian bone is made out of, and it's just a combination of calcium and phosphorus and oxygen and a little hydrogen. That it's mostly calcium and phosphorus, which is no surprise because that's what our bones are made of, right? So by applying this to our teeth, this can really help close. So our teeth look smooth and they look like glass. They're not. They're more like if you look at like a kitchen sponge. It's got a bunch of holes in it. And if you look at the surface of a tooth, it looks really more like that under a microscope. And so those little holes allow for cold drinks, cold foods, cold air even, to go in and affect the nerve, and that's what creates the tooth sensitivity. And by using products that contain hydroxyapatite, as well as a good diet, a nutrient-dense diet, we can help to make those holes smaller. We don't want to close them completely, but to make those holes smaller to where they're not as open feeling. It's interesting, we launched our first remineralizing product we launched almost 10 years ago. And one of the first comments that we started getting from our community was, it's a weird explanation. It may not make sense to people listening to this, but your teeth feel thicker. Not like the tooth itself is thicker, but denser, not as porous is really what it is. So to address sensitivity specifically, we need to stop the insult, right? So find out if you have gum disease. Find out if you are having airway issues. Support that upstream. And then address the sensitivity so that way we stop it from getting worse. And now let's address the sensitivity by strategies to help remineralize our teeth.
Yeah, that's super powerful. And you get emails every day, I'm guessing, of people who tell you that it's worked for them. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what we call love notes. We get testimonials and
Love letters.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff really works. I've tried it for myself. And so I had sensitive teeth as well from going through a long period of quite intense anxiety. So ironically, I was clenching and grinding at night, and it's quite hard to admit that to some people. But I was, and I had sensitive teeth as a result, and I was really against using a mouth guard because it was just against the principles of all the work that we do. But then of what you said, stopping it at the source, I did eventually get a mouth guard to just stop it until I could work through the anxiety and do more jaw yoga, bring my system back into balance. And, but it was like anything sweet that I would eat, even like a dry rice cake, anything that had carbohydrates on it, just a dry rice cake on the teeth, automatically triggered the sensation feeling. And I think there's something about like osmotic effect. I don't know if you know, if you could maybe briefly explain that, just keeping time in mind as well. And lastly, if you feel there's a difference between, or what your research says, between nano hydroxyapatite and micro. Quite a specific question, but I think it does matter, right?
No, it does matter very much. Um, yeah, I think that I really enjoy the research from people who did research like 100 years ago or further than that. There was the work of Doctors Edward and May Mellenby about 100 years ago, a little bit more maybe. And they were the ones to first pin down that having kids in particular on a diet that is rich in oatmeal increases a risk of decay. So I think there's something to be said for what you're talking about there with osmotic pressure. I think that there's probably a relationship also to phytic acid being a mineral block, so we think of like, oh, oats are really high in vitamin B and whatever else. That's what we're told, right? Well, they're also high in phytic acid, and that functions as an anti-nutrient. When we eat foods high in phytic acid, once we digest them and start to absorb that food, start to assimilate the nutrients out of that food, phytic acid creates actually a block to our body's ability to uptake the nutrition that's in that food. So I think that there's something to be said for your point about rice cakes. That's a tough one. So yeah, you couldn't eat any frozen or cold, like a cold drink would be hard. Yeah.
That wasn't really it wasn't too bad. It was, I would get maybe like an instant slight sting with cold and hot, but it was more the sweetness of it, somehow, sweet or acidic. It would tingle for about 2 hours, which just get super annoying.
Yeah. 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 So, unpacking your question about nano or micro hydroxyapatite, this is something that we dwell in very heavily because we do have strong opinions about this, and we have research to back it up. Now, most of the market at this point is using nano hydroxyapatite. All right, so nano hydroxyapatite, again, hydroxyapatite is the molecule that our teeth are made of. There are a lot of different sources for it, right? The source that we use for our products is from mammalian bone. We actually source our hydroxyapatite for most of our products. We actually use a micro hydroxyapatite that I'll talk about briefly in a moment. But most of our products use a natural-based hydroxyapatite that is sourced from New Zealand grass-fed cattle bone. That's kind of a gross thing for some people to contemplate, but if you think about the fact that our ancestors relied on animals and their bones to nourish themselves for us to be here, it makes a little bit more sense. So the particle size, so what we're talking about when we're talking about nano versus microcrystalline hydroxyapatite, if you think of a bone and you take that bone and you crush it up into bone powder now, and you look at that powder, if you look at that under a microscope, each of those particles of that powder is going to be a size. Okay. And the smaller that particle size gets, the more effective it's going to be at getting inside those tubes, that sponge of our teeth, right?
Yeah.
The problem is when it gets very, 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 very small, as in not you can't powder a bone down to nano hydroxyapatite size. It's not possible. Okay. You can powder it down to microcrystalline hydroxyapatite size. So let's get into this a little bit, and I'm sorry for the detail, but it does matter. Microcrystalline hydroxyapatite will be anywhere from 5 to 70 microns. Okay, now what's a micron? A micron is 1,000 nanometers. Okay, so nanohydroxyapatite is around the 100 nanometer size or less. Okay, we're talking about thousands of times smaller. It's so small, actually, that I was just doing a video about this, so I can speak directly to this easily. The EU's version of the US FDA, it's called the SCCS, the Safety Commission for Society, I don't know, it's Consumer Safety Commission. Okay. They several years ago came out and said, "Oh, wait a second, nanohydroxyapatite is not safe. We can't allow it to be sold in the EU."
Oh, wow.
And then more research was done. They said, "No, it's okay if you use it up to 10% in formulas." I don't know how they come up with numbers like that. I think it's a little bit ludicrous. There are no long-term safety studies on it. The concerns with this is that nanoparticles, and the research is very clear on this, that nanoparticles are so small they can go anywhere they want. And so they're not staying where they're supposed to stay.
I see.
So this is the problem. And so, yeah, we use microcrystalline hydroxyapatite in our products. Most of the hydroxyapatite on the market these days in toothpaste is going to be nano. So just look at a tube. And we're actually in the process of producing a video right now, a tutorial, which is that's my sweet spot. I love doing that. On this subject of particle size to really bring it under greater clarity. Because there's a lot of companies out there saying, "Oh, it's safe now." And the SCCS has determined that it's safe, and that's not really accurate if you read their safety data on it. I think that's probably deep enough. I don't want to go too much farther with it.
That was great. I was more kind of thinking in terms of effectiveness, but I didn't realize there was so much more to that question. So, yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And if people do want to try your product, I think you've kindly given us a discount code for our community, which is Jaw Yoga, one word, to give you 15% off. And I've tried your products and they are amazing. I love the taste of the Heal Thy Mouth blend as well. Of course, the taste, but also what it does in the mouth. And maybe you'd like to just, in like an elevator pitch, maybe you'd like to just tell us what your other products do as well.
Yeah, I'm going to do so through the lens that we work too. This relates to our products, but I'm not going to pitch our products because our products are a downstream consequence of what we really do, which is educate our community. Here's the thing. We are the captain. We touched on this a little bit. We're the captain. We're the MVP of our journey. Okay, that's very important for us, and it's kind of a sober responsibility to take. There's no dentist out there who can make our mouth healthy. It's not possible. Okay, they can fill cavities, they can do periodontal depth tests, they can tell us that we have gum disease, all sorts of stuff. But for the most part, dentistry is reactive. It's disease oriented. It's not wellness oriented. Okay. So the number one thing that we need to grasp is that we are the captain. And so what is our job? Our job is to optimize our oral microbiome. Okay, so our oral microbiome is the community, is the ecosystem of bacteria and fungi and viruses and all sorts of stuff that live in our mouths. Okay, there's over 700 species of bacteria that have been identified that live in most people's mouths. Now, this is a good thing. This is the way we were designed. This is not like I should go get bleach and gargle with this is okay. We're not supposed to kill the bugs in our mouth. Our job is actually to be a good conductor, is to be a good steward of our oral microbiome. Once we understand that, now we can approach how we can accomplish that best. Okay, so how am I supposed to be a good steward? How am I supposed to take care of my oral microbiome? And the way to take care of your oral microbiome is to, again, upgrade your knowledge on strategies that help you do that. For example, I told you guys already that I like research that's been done a long time ago because it has a lower likelihood of being tinkered with and changed, and I'll leave it there. There was a guy called Dr. Charles Bass. He was a parasite doctor. He studied parasites, actually, as a researcher, and he was diagnosed with advanced gum disease many years ago. This is, as a young man, he was diagnosed with this. This is probably 100 years ago that he did this. And rather than go the route of having all of his teeth pulled, he went back to his lab and he developed a toothbrush, a style of toothbrush, and a bristle pattern and a brushing technique that he could see with his own microscope disrupted the bacterial colonies in his gum pockets. So why is this important? Because all it takes is how to use a proper toothbrush to accomplish this. And once somebody understands this, they don't ever have to go down the road of having gum disease if they understand how to brush their teeth properly.
So simple.
It really is. It really is. It's just like, oh, well, learn how to put your tongue to the roof of your mouth. It's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Just have to do it, right?
Truly,
Yeah.
truly. Yeah. So, so all of our products have been born out of this. Like, okay, how can we help our community optimize the oral microbiome? Well, we create the Healthy Mouth Blend or the Heal Thy Mouth Blend to be able to help manage bacterial populations in the mouth to optimize them. And then we realized, well, okay, we've got gum disease going on. Now let's figure out something for tooth decay. And so that's when we came into the hydroxyapatite discussion.
All right. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. This is so important for people to know.
Of course.
I really very much appreciate. So if our listeners, our community, would just remember only one thing from this conversation today, what would it be?
Wherever you find yourself, regardless of your state of oral health, there's hope. We can always make wiser decisions.
Wow.
We just have to step back and look from a broader frame at the situation in order to really identify what the right path is. If we are not sure what to do, find people who have been down that path and can guide you.
I loved it.
Yeah, and get yourself a bass brush, right? But I really appreciate you not kind of shamelessly plugging your product. I can tell you really speak from the heart. You want to help people, you want to educate people, and really says a lot about you as a person and as a company as well. So really celebrating that. But with that in mind, what's next for OraWellness? Do you have any projects? Do you have any more videos about nano? What's coming up?
Yeah. That's a battle for me. We're getting ready to really increase our educational efforts in long form video. I really enjoy producing long form video, and it's difficult. It's time consuming, but it's really not only my passion to provide helpful information, but it's also a brand distinguisher. I feel there's a lot of companies out there who will spend their money on buying Facebook and Google ads, and we don't do that. We put our money into education and hope that the people who are looking for solutions will find us and find what we have to say helpful, and go from there. So there's a couple of stories I'd like to share about how our mission here at OraWellness, which our mission is to empower healthy smiles worldwide. And that, we didn't know that all along. That's been an evolving process. And we realized it actually from feedback from our community. It was originally one, I believe it was a guy, it doesn't really matter, but this is many years ago now. And he, reached out to us and said, hey, your products are really helping me, whatever it was, stopping my bleeding gums. And he ended this email with, I'm beginning to smile more. And that touched something. It awakened something in my heart. And wait a second. You mean that what we're doing is helping people to smile more? And I've made an association in my mind and my consciousness. This is what drives me. This is what I get out of bed. This is why I wake up early in the morning with ideas swirling like, oh, that's a really good idea for a video. It's because if we can contribute to the betterment of the lives of the people in the planet by having people smile more, we don't know the impact of that, guys. We don't know what that ripples out. And I want to read you a testimonial. This lady's name is Debbie. She lives in the northern United States here. And she will always be in my mind. I haven't memorized her testimonial, obviously, but she says, you have given me the courage to smile again in public. Today I've returned from my regular dental cleaning and the area of concern seems to be healing. I may not need a filling in that tooth. I know this is a result of your products. Please continue to make these greatly needed health products. I truly feel stronger. I'm practicing having my picture taken with an open smile now, something my grown kids are in awe of. Thank you. So that's it, guys. What is the impact of a smile? How does that impact us? This, I can't emphasize enough, and this actually ties in. We got to meet a very famous person to us. She's a musical songwriter and a singer here in the United States. And her name is India R.E. She's very well known in some circles. And she has a song called There's Hope. And there's a line out of her song that encapsulates our mission better than anything else. And so I'll just quote India here, which the line says, stand up for your rights, keep shining your light, show the world your smile. That's it. Because when we show the world our smile, first of all, it is a demonstration of civil disobedience in this day and age to smile, because there's so much negativity in the world, and the news just recycles and regurgitates it. And to allow ourselves to smile and bring that smile forward and share it with people, I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only smile to that.
Right? We could produce a page for you guys on our site that's like OraWellness.com/jaw yoga that has a number of free resources on it for your community, as well as the coupon code. That might be helpful just to kind of put everything in one place for your folks.
Yeah, absolutely. We can speak about that, but education, we're definitely up for enhancing that and spreading that. I think that's really important, but also education delivered with care, right? So people are not just looking for, we got an email today of someone saying, finally someone, or a review, I think it was, finally someone's listening to me. Finally someone's seeing me, It's not just about telling me what to do or this will probably help you, but this might help you and I see you,
Right.
And that doesn't even need to be a direct interaction. It can also just be how the content is made,
I agree.
Someone feels seen within that. Yeah. So this is our first interview, actually, Will, in terms of the podcast relaunching. So it's a special moment.
Thank you very much.
But we couldn't think of a better person to have. So that's special. And one thing we end our podcast with or this is a tradition we're now going to be starting, is a quick fire round that has 2 rounds. So round number 1 I will do, and Julia will do round number 2. And round number 1 is a very simple rule. So you can answer with 1 sentence. That's as much as you can answer, but you have that full sentence to use. So don't hold back.
Okay.
The question number 1. What did Tai Chi teach you about life?
How to breathe.
Nice. What did business teach you about Tai Chi?
That everything is constantly in a state of flux and change.
What one piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
Be honest.
Nice. And what one piece of advice would your younger self give to you now?
These are fantastic, Felix. Slow down.
Same here.
Same here.
All right, that completes
So
round number 1.
beautiful. Yeah,
Well done.
quick fire round to Will, are you ready? Because
Ready.
now it's a little bit different. It's only 1 word.
Okay.
Only 1 word. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, first round. Bruxism is.
Misunderstood.
Susan is.
Precious.
Will is.
Hmm. Worthy.
OraWellness is.
Beautiful.
People are.
Beautiful.
And the future is.
Only 1 word? Oh,
Only 1 word.
Beautiful.
mysterious.
Oh, loved it. Amazing. Thanks so much for these honest answers. I love it.
Thank you guys. I've never experienced that. That was fantastic. Very fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Do you have any closing remarks? Anything that if you check into yourself that wants to be said, expressed?
I would just like to thank the people who are listening to this, including you guys, for your presence and awareness here. You're in the right place. You have the answers either within you or from guides. So trust yourself, trust your sense, trust your heart, and thank you for your time.
Wow. That's amazing. Thanks so much. I appreciate very much everything you shared today with us, with our community. So yeah, I have no words.
Thank you so much, guys.
What's our slogan, Julia? Maybe you should end with that.
Yeah, take care of your smile. That's it. It's to all of us, right?
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got me feeling so good. Always knew that I could. Got me feeling so good, so good, so good, so good, so yeah. Got me feeling so good.